If you're an empath and feel very sensitive and sometimes struggle with overwhelming things, in this video I'm going to list some key points that can tell you whether you truly are an empath, and I also have a couple of tips on how to deal with all of that. Hi and welcome back. In this video I want to talk about empaths and what it means to be an empath and how you can tell if you are. About 20% of people are predisposed to being an empath. They're kind of born like that, sensitive, and 20% is actually quite a few people, so there are quite a lot of empaths around, and quite often empaths find themselves drawn to the spiritual community, to things like that, because they do look a bit deeper at life. So I come across them quite a lot in my work, and quite often they've had a bit of a hard time. Maybe they're struggling a bit with life or relationships and things like that. And I wanted to make this video just to kind of maybe make it a bit easier and to say, hey, you're not alone. There's quite a few empaths out there. It's not a disorder, it's not a weakness, it's actually a very powerful gift. It's just in our society, people are raised to be a bit more shallow in general. So it's not recognised as such a big gift when we're children, and that can make it harder to deal with it as people get older. It's not always easy. So I'm going to list some points of how to tell if you are an empath and mention a bit more about it afterwards. So number one, you're very sensitive since childhood. I remember wishing desperately on the school bus one day that I wasn't so sensitive. If people were cross with me, I could feel it, even if they didn't tell the truth about it. I could feel so much from people. I had a really good friend at that stage of my life who'd had a very rough life. He was a foster child and had come from a very abusive background, and I used to feel so much of his hurt and his confusion. It was quite hard, even though he never ever spoke about it. He never told me anything about it. So yeah, that's part of being an empath. So if you've been very sensitive since childhood, it's quite likely you could be an empath. Number two is you feel other people's feelings. If you're around somebody who's upset or down or feeling particularly negative or hurt or upset, you can take that on and feel it almost as if it's your own. So when you leave a situation like that and you're feeling really out of sorts, check in with yourself and make sure they're actually your own feelings you're feeling and not somebody else's. And then bring your attention back into yourself and remind yourself that, that's not yours. That might be that other person's problem or their feelings. Number three, negativity or very negative environments or families or groups or people, workplaces can really drain you, because just actually existing in an environment like that can be phenomenally exhausting and draining, because energetically you're coping with that the whole time. You're interacting with all that energy, all that negativity, and that can be really, really tiring. And I've got a tip at the end on how to deal with those things. Number four, crowded places, busy places, huge crowds can be quite difficult. I used to find it very difficult when I used to travel with an event. And, I'd work with people and it was only one or two people at a time. But if I wanted to go outside, there'd be hundreds of people, and I'd be like, oh gosh, I just actually need to go somewhere quiet for half an hour while I have my lunch. It was quite tricky sometimes trying to find that balance. So yeah, crowds can be extremely exhausting and confusing, and you may be taking on all sorts of energy and feelings from the people around you. And there's also such a thing called mass consciousness, and mass consciousness is kind of the whole awareness and consciousness of the planet. And on our planet there's actually quite a lot of fear and anger and things like that floating around, and empaths do have a tendency to kind of feel that mass consciousness. So Nature is very good for detaching from that because nature is very grounding and very nurturing. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by mass consciousness or crowds of people, spend some time in nature, 20 minutes, half an hour, and you'll feel a whole lot better. Number 5, empaths usually have a very strong intuition. They know things. They don't always know how they know things, but they do know things, and will have very strong intuitive hits like telling them to keep away from someone. One of the biggest lessons is to learn to listen to that because a lot of younger empaths certainly don't, because there's a kindness and a goodness in their hearts, and they want to give people a chance. It's normal. But sometimes that's to their detriment. So listen to your intuition. Really pay attention because it can save you so much trouble. Number 6, they're often very in tune with their body. If their emotions go out of whack, they might feel it like a physical pain or illness or something like that. So, the body very quickly and very strongly exhibit symptoms if you're in an emotionally difficult space. So pay attention to that and make sure you take care of yourself and nurture yourself so that you can feel better again. Number 7, empaths often avoid unpleasant images and things like that, or movies, or really gruesome horrid things like that. It can be just too much for an empath. I know sometimes even on Facebook I'll be scrolling and this image will come up and I'm like, oh God, and just quickly get rid of it. And sometimes I'll also click on hide this image because I don't want to see it come up again. It might be something like something awful happening to an animal, some kind of cruelty or something like that. And that can just really hit me like a shock. And a lot of empaths are like that. They just feel that so strongly. So avoid that if you're into Facebook or social media. On Facebook, I know you can scroll, and if there's an image that really disturbs you, top right-hand corner, you can actually hide that. And then it doesn't keep coming up every time you have a look, and just don't watch really horrid movies. Watch something light, watch something funny, watch something inspiring. It'll be so much better for your energy than trying to sit through something that's gruesome and awful. Number 8, often empaths can tell when somebody's lying. They feel it. It just, something's not right. And often, especially when we're younger, we tend to not believe that because we want to believe in people. But over time and over experiences that have taught us, we learn to pay attention. If something is being triggered and we have a this isn't true reaction, pay attention to it. So that's something we usually learn with maturity and age, unless we're raised in a wonderful family that have taught us to listen to that. Most families don't. My father was very spiritual, but he didn't teach me how to listen to my intuition. That was something I had to figure out. But very strong, intuitive, inner knowing. You don't always know where it's coming from, but it's there. So pay attention when that happens. It's a gift. It's something great and strong. Everybody has intuition, but empaths, because they're very feeling orientated, tend to feel it stronger and have the experience a bit stronger. Number 9, you're often more sensitive to medications and stimulants and things like that, or drugs if you've ever played with that. I know for me, medications and things, I've had some pretty bad experiences, like with an antibiotic, and so I'm very careful with things like that. And also coffee can really ramp me up if I overdo it. So pay attention to that. If you're really sensitive to medications, be careful with them. If you have to take something and it's having a negative effect on you, please go back to your doctor and tell them, because they might be able to change it. I prefer to go for natural remedies. Doctors are kind of there on the last resort page for me, because I find natural things work much better for my body, and it's genuine healing and not just a masking of symptoms. So yeah, I'm going to make more videos about that too. Okay, number 10. You can take on somebody else's symptoms, and that happens if you spend time with somebody who's got physical pains or something wrong with them. Sometimes you can go away and actually feel them. I've had that before, and it's like, what on earth is wrong with me? And then I realize it's actually not mine, it's somebody else's. And the minute I become aware of it, it actually starts to ease. So just being conscious of it and aware of it, I think, helps hugely with that. And I've had that all my life. I remember my friend, my best friend, I had a very, very best friend as a child called Judith. I wanted her to be my sister, and she broke her toe and I limped. So, yeah, I had a really sore toe, even though there was nothing wrong with mine. That's how deeply it can go with empaths. So if you're looking after somebody or caring for people who are unwell, make sure you clear and ground that when you leave. Epsom salt baths, Epsom salt showers. If you haven't got a bath, put it in a flannel or something, and spend some time outdoors and just be really aware of what's you and what's not you, because yeah, that's really important. Number 11, and this isn't such a cool one, but it seems to happen, and it's that empaths attract narcissists and people with personality disorders like sociopaths and psychopaths. So it's an unfortunate one, but it's not their fault. It's more that those kind of people pick up on an empath's kindness and their ability to heal and want to heal, and their ability to try and make, or they're wanting to make things better and things like that. And for somebody who's a narcissist or personality disordered, that's quite appealing and quite tempting, because people like that are usually pretty easy to manipulate, because they're trying to be nice. So be wary of that. I'm not saying it's going to happen to everybody. It's just something I've come across quite a lot. And yeah, just trust your instincts on that one. Once again, your intuition will let you know if something's wrong. Love should not hurt all the time, and your partner and the person who loves you should not bring you down or tear you down or make you feel bad all the time. That's just, yeah, not on. So be aware of that. It's just a little bit of a caution. Number 13, people will quite easily tell you their problems, and that's something empaths experience. Often you might be at a bus stop and the lady sitting next to you tells you all her troubles. Very much an empath thing to attract that, because people feel that kindness, that warmth, that healing ability that empaths have, and instantly feel comfortable sharing with that person. And yeah, so can be a little bit overwhelming, so you don't have to always sit there for hours and hours and listen to it, because some people will take advantage of that. So it's okay to remove yourself when you've had enough. Number 14, you become easily fatigued. You need to find balance with that and take time out and rest to get your energy back up, especially if you've been around a lot of different people and energies and very busy and things have been a little bit chaotic. Make sure you take some time for you to unwind and things like that, because it's quite normal for empaths, because of their open energy. Empaths' energy just doesn't have those fixed boundaries as some other people's do, and that makes it easier for that energy to become dissipated and affected and things like that. So holding that all together takes a huge amount of energy. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the empath's energy. In a beautiful, ideal, wonderful world, that wouldn't be a problem, but we don't live in that just yet, so be aware of it. Number 15, loud noises can be quite overwhelming. Being in a really noisy environment will quite often not work for an empath. They do need times of quiet, of peace, in order to regenerate and re-energize. So be aware of that. Don't intentionally put yourself anywhere too loud for too long, because it might just not make you feel very good. Number 16, you need regular alone time. Yeah. Just to recharge. Into also the key point to alone time isn't to push everybody away, but it's actually to sift and sort through all that energy, because you will have taken on bits of other people's and stuff like that. And actually being by yourself allows you to kind of get rid of that, to detach from that and to get back into your own energy. And that is so important for your well-being. So make sure you make time for that. Number 17, some avoid relationships altogether after trying relationships when they're younger, because it becomes too overwhelming and they often become lost in what the other person wants and lose themselves. So in order for a relationship to really work for an empath, they still need a bit of alone time, and they need to be with somebody who's not overpowering or dominating. That kind of scenario just won't work for an empath. So once they meet the right kind of person who lets them be who they are and who's sensitive to their way of being, it can be absolutely wonderful. So it doesn't mean you can't be in a relationship. It's just got to be the right relationship. Number 18, nature replenishes you. That's so true. Empaths and nature are just such a strong connection. Even sitting in nature, by a river, by a lake, even just in your garden, will re-energize you a lot. It's just something about nature and its calmness, and the energies surrounding plants and trees and water and things like that are not like people energies. They're generally very self-contained. They don't take anything from you. They actually re-energize you, because they're very giving energies. So being around that is absolutely awesome. Make sure you make time for that. Number 19, they're often a truth seeker. They want the truth. They want to know the truth, and will keep on digging until they find the truth. And that can sometimes be a long, lifelong journey, finding the truth, because truth has this uncanny habit of getting deeper and changing and transforming. So being a truth seeker is a very, very common trait of empaths. So the biggest keys, and I've stopped at 19, the biggest keys are understanding and awareness. The more aware you become of what's going on around you energetically and with your own energy, the easier you will find it to manage it and to look after it and to care for it. So self-care is vitally important, but just awareness and feeling your energy, maybe meditating and just being aware of the space around you. That's your auric field, that's your energy. It will make you very aware of when other people encroach on that and things like that. And you can become very, very sensitive to that. I remember when I was working at the healing centre and we used to give each other energy healings and things. I mean, to me, when somebody's running their hand 10 inches over my body, I can feel it. I can have my eyes closed and still feel it, that interaction of energy. So the more aware you become, the easier it is to actually move away and stay away from things that aren't good for you. Don't get paranoid about it and scared about it. It's actually your gift. It's your strength. It makes you phenomenal. It makes you amazing. It makes you an incredible healer, an amazing intuitive. You can offer guidance to people, and so it's a phenomenal gift. It's just hard to deal with sometimes in the society we live in, which is very fast-paced and loud and overwhelming. I'm sure our ancestors, when they lived in quiet little places, maybe a small village where life wasn't so fast, it was probably a lot easier. But now in the modern world, it can be quite hard. So come up with some strategies on how to deal with things, like especially situations and people. We'll quite often get quite sucked in by people and find it quite hard to get away from them. So come up with some ideas, some strategies. I used to have an arrangement with a friend of mine. She's passed on now, but I believe she was an empath. Well, I know she was an empath, but she had a job where she worked with women who'd been through abuse. She was a counsellor, wonderful woman. But she also needed quite a bit of alone time because of the work she did and so forth. But sometimes she'd get invited by people or have to go to social situations she wasn't overly keen on. And she used to let me know to give her a ring, just let the phone ring or text her at a certain time, and I would do that, and then she could say, okay, sorry, work call, I've got to go, and it was her out. And I thought it was quite clever. If you find it hard to say, look, I'm tired, I've got to go, or come up with a really assertive thing like that, which is best, but it's hard sometimes, then come up with a little out like that. Even program your alarm on your phone to go off at a certain time, and then go, oops, I've got to go, or something like that. Or from the word go, tell people you've got to go at a certain time. Yeah, that can be a really big key. It means you don't stay where you're being drained and or depleted. You actually move away from that and go and take care of yourself. So that's the hardest one. A lot of empaths don't have very good boundaries with people, and that's something that's really important to learn, to actually say no and to not give more than you can. So those are big lessons, but the more into balance you come with that, the more refined your gift will be. Your intuition, your talent will become stronger, because you're not kind of letting it be depleted constantly. You've got a bit more say on where you give and how much and when and things like that. And at those times then it becomes much clearer and much easier to manage. So yeah, oops, silly old thing. That was my phone. That was Bixby wanting to know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so please don't ever think there's anything wrong with being an empath. It's a wonderful thing. Please connect with other empaths so that you can share and understand each other. It's much easier. Like for me, my friendship with Tot, who was also an empath, was wonderful, because we really were in tune with each other. We never overdid it. If we spent time together, it was kind of at our comfort level. We never kind of drained each other or did any of that. It was a very, very nice flowing friendship with somebody who was the same and who understood, and it was very nurturing and very warm. So look for friendships like that. There are a lot of empaths out there. Connect with people who are more on your wavelength, because those relationships will be easier. The other relationships you don't have to walk away from, but just manage them at a level that you're comfortable with, and you'll feel a whole lot better. If you do have physical symptoms of any sort as part of this, a lot of empaths end up with health disorders or burnout and things like that. Look at natural ways of replenishing and have rest. The whole society is all about take an aspirin and soldier on and go back to work even though you're really sick. I don't think that's a good way to live life. If our body's sick, it needs rest. End of story. And so find ways to nurture yourself, to take care of yourself. Look at natural ways of boosting your energy through diet, fresh air, being in good places, and you'll feel 100% a lot of the time. So don't ever think of it as anything bad. It's a wonderful thing, but it takes a little bit of managing. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Put anything in the comments that you've got to add to that, or how you experience being an empath, or how you discovered that you are one. It's always nice to have a bit of discussion after the video. And lots of love. And I'll see you all in my next video.